Let's talk about this. Uh, you see, one of the reasons why the Redpill movement actually failed, man, is simply because of selfishness. Selfishness, first of all, from the leaders in the movement, particularly preying on younger men. Ironic how they criticize OF models doing the same. And I feel like also the problem is that the selfishness attitude when it comes to like dating in general. Me. It's almost as if treating men as kids. Ironic again, preying on younger kids, trying to like warp their perception and like redefine masculinity in old or dated ideas and trying to tell them how irrelevant it is right now. Right? I mean, it is a very nuanced concept to try to like wrap your hand around what masculinity even is to begin with, because it's very different and it changes from culture to culture. And I feel like I, as a man, have evolved, not necessarily because, oh, I had a trajectory of evolving to become this kind of man, because the expectations that have been placed on me as a man have evolved. The ones that I placed on myself have also changed. So it begs the question, how did this go on for so long? And I feel like it convinced a lot of people that they were less than, right? I mean, obviously, you might be like, oh, it's telling them that they deserve everything. They're like, high value this, high value that. But I don't believe that's the case. Think of it this way: if you tell someone is irrelevant, doesn't have anything going for them, etc., it's easier for you to sell them on some shit. And that's all it has been, a sale tactic. I mean, you can see right now, like, everyone changing. Like, oh, Sneeko not being a big fan of his audience, which is ironic because his original audience, I was part of that when he was introspective, deeper thought, philosophical, engaging, like having a more sophisticated take on things. And I think, like, obviously, those don't get the views, right? But you also have to realize if you perpetuate Satan narratives just to get the views, you don't therefore control the kind of views that you get and the kind of people that follow you. And I feel like the problem is when people dig deep into this whole Red Pill movement, then you end up villainizing women on the other hand, which is pretty ironic, especially with the Satan privileges that you already gain as a man. I mean, you can go into arguments about intersectionality, like, oh, as a black man in this, and well, if like I'm a non-straight man, if this, all that. But I feel like fundamentally, you're trying hard and desperate to perpetuate like the status quo of misogyny while the world is evolving to be better and get above that and rise above that. And it doesn't mean that you get left in the dust, etc. Because the problem is, it starts first with the dehumanization of you yourself, meaning someone breaks you down and tells you you're not good enough, this is what a man should be, and you're not living up to par, which is very a loaded term, as I mentioned earlier. And then you find yourself like, oh, now you dehumanize women because there's no humanity left in you. Am I right? Right? And then, like, on the other end of the spectrum, then you have like the sneaky fuckers, the sneaky fucker syndrome, overly acting as like, oh, pro-feminist, whatever, with an alternate agenda as well. And then we just find ourselves playing these two games of ideas, but no one is actually willing to do the work on themselves because they were told there could never be enough. And the way they get enough is by acquiring more women, all that stuff. And it's not just frustrating, it's just really confusing. And my challenge to you right now is, first of all, define yourself as a human. I know this sounds like, oh, hullabaloo, cheesy, blah, blah, blah. What does that even mean? See yourself as a human. Like, whether you're a good person or a bad person is up to you. But just see yourself as a human and then ask yourself, how do you fit in society? And then obviously the relationship goes two ways. You are signing a social contract with other people, right? So if they don't live up to that end of the bargain, so then you can be a crash out like Aaron the plumber, right? But at the same time, if society protects you and offer you certain rights and whatever, then you do the same and understand and protect the rights of others. We in a society. This is not the jungle, like, oh, enough for me, all that kind of shit, right? So, all this to say, I'm glad that the movement died. Obviously, there can be discussions about men empowerment and whatever, but I feel like it's also paramount that the discussions of men empowerment don't need to exist in a context or talking about women. Like, just picture life, you living by yourself for the rest of your life. Like, dying by yourself, exactly. And then construct your life on that and be like, okay, fine, what it is that I need to do, right? Maybe the typical hit the gym, whatever. But then it doesn't just stop there at like how physically you look. Does it boost your mental drive, your mental energy? What else can you accomplish? Cool. Do you feel empowered and in the zone? Good. How do you pass that along? Because you're not going to live here forever, right? You're not going to be immortal, but you can immortalize yourself by being influential to other people, by mentoring, right? And not this red pill mentoring of like, oh, you got to do this, right? Because that's when you end up hitting the lane on like Passport Boy Alley, which historically, if you think of it, it's some colonial shit, right? Going to less economically thriving nations to try to claim to be high value, right? Because you couldn't cut it in your own society. That's some conquistador shit, right? And I feel like the one thing that frustrates me is the idea of selling conquering as what defines masculinity. And I'm not saying I'm gonna tell you what masculinity is, but don't let anyone define what that is for you. Like in general, like all this ideas of, oh, whatever happened to the men over the nothing happened. Society evolved, expectations change, people grow, people learn, and I feel like you need to take that journey very, very, very seriously and like work on you, whatever that means. Like for example, right now, like I'm fortunate that I just kind of like been in a grand mindset, right? But also I balance that with a lot of gratitude. So I don't have a lot, but what I have is really amazing to me, right? You gotta have a better nuanced understanding and approach to the world because there's so much more than just plain ideas of like gender politics and this. That's why discussions about gender identity, the trans movement, has a lot of people paralyzed because we're still thinking in this limited boxes about what masculinity is. And it's very simple, just be a better human, man. Like, I'm not saying be good based on like some religious idea. Just be a better. Even if you spend all your life by yourself, be a better human while by yourself. Don't sit on the couch all day. Read a fucking book. If you don't want to read a book, go on a fucking walk. Breathe in nature. Appreciate it. Maybe it'll inspire you to be an environmentalist. Go hunt. If you want to be a vegan, commit to that. Just commit to a better life for yourself, and you'll just be enough for yourself. And it makes it so easier that you don't hear the noises of like, you're not good enough, you're not man enough, you're not this, because you know deep down who you are and what it is, right? And I know I'm not very goofy and laffy-daffy and very loud in this particular video because it's just like, please stop listening to what people say you should be or you should do. Figure that out on your own, and then ask someone this idea. You can always learn something. Ask someone this idea, and then that collective becomes your collective experience. Like, as opposed to like this parasocial relationship with like one entity, like worshipping a fucking red pill dog or whatever. It's like you have a broad understanding and you put everything in context and nuance, and not everything has to jive and make sense. They are fucking paradoxes, you know? And it's okay. It's life. That's why our life gets so complicated. We're humans, we're not machines. We're not running on an algorithm. And I know it's simpler to just run on an algorithm, but the challenging thing for you to do is to challenge yourself. Alright. Anyway, I did start going to the gym in the morning, so we'll see how that goes. But going back to that, because I feel like in the afternoons there's a lot of people. It's too busy. But okay. Whatever you take away from this, I know it's just a rumble, nothing prepped or whatever. Just don't let anyone tell you what you ought to do, what you should be. Just don't let that happen.